mentally, it's gotten a lot better. I think it was really weird to watch my mental health incline up to something positive and then decline to something negative and then go back up again.
Yeah.
Because when I first moved, like 2 weeks before I moved, I was at like the best point in my life because I was like, you know what, this is exciting. I've never even expected at age 25 to move into an apartment and live with somebody that I actually love and cherish and value. So I was like really happy about it.
Yeah.
And I was also eager to get out of Rochester. Anyway, before I moved, I was like really happy. I was eager to get out of Rochester. I started realizing, the negatives of Rochester and the impact that it had on me. So then I was really expecting to move. Then when I moved...
Because Rochester is not the most exciting place in the world.
It's not, no. It really isn't. And I mean, once you really look into it, all Rochester is just a bunch of business. And, they have Mayo Clinic and they have their own policy and they want everybody to follow that. And, there's very narrow-minded people here, but at the same time, I've met some really cool people here. And that's the one thing that really got to me when I moved.
Yeah.
That the cool people, because we always think about the bad things.
Yeah.
But I think the cool people and the people that were actually wholesome to me and the people that I actually liked and cared about were 2 hours away, and then my brother stopped reaching out. So there was like a lot of things that really started to bottle up. But eventually my partner and I ran into some issues. And then after that, things started getting better, but it took a while,
And so when did you move? How long ago was that?
It was around March.
Because, so the reason why I asked that, and I think your response was really interesting because, as you know, I'm going to be moving in 2 days to a new country.
Right.
And I can really relate to what you said about kind of the mental health piece where you're saying that before you move, you're in this place where you're kind of like, things are pretty good. Like, what is it you said in your words? Like you said, it was one of the best kind of places you've been mentally in a while.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel right now. And,
well, I didn't mean to scare you.
Yeah. but like thinking about this week and of all the people that I've had to say goodbye to, what I've kind of come to terms with is, for one, how many people I didn't realize I knew. And so, and then with that, like I didn't expect to, for one, be so busy just trying to see everybody and family and friends and people I've worked with. I didn't expect all the tears to come with that from not even me, but others, because the concept of somebody crying over you, that's something a few years ago I never would have imagined somebody doing, unless something happened like I died. But to be in a place now where I'm kind of like, wow, I really, in a way, have everything that I want and could possibly want. And that's like when I decide to move away to a different country. But
it really does shed a new light on things like that too, because we always think about, like, especially if you have BPD or any mental health disorder, you're just always in the headspace of, nobody really cares about me. And like, I know for me personally, it was like, 2 weeks prior to me even moving, I was like, you know what, nobody even really cares, so why am I staying here? But at the same time, when I actually did move, nobody cried. I mean, I'll be honest with you, nobody did, or at least to my face. I mean, I don't...
Yeah, well, I was pretty upset when you moved.
Yeah.
It was an adjustment period.
It definitely is.
And it was weird because, we lived so close to each other and we would hang out just all the time.
We really would, and it was so weird to know that you were no longer like a block away. My other friends were no longer like across town. My family wasn't just upstairs, they were 2 hours away. And, I think a lot of the serious aspects started to kick in too, like the more serious thoughts started kicking in, like, well, what if something, I'm more of a, I call it like wide range thinking, where I think about all the possible scenarios. I'm very, very detailed that way. So I thought about like, oh, well, what if my car breaks down and I don't have any, I'm 2 hours away. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But see, my point is, back to my main point is when you're just starting to move and you realize that people do care about you, you get emotional.
Yeah.
But since people that you care about are always around you right now, you don't, like, you realize it obviously, but it's not something you think about every day, but now that you're moving, it's something that you're going to be thinking about. And I think that's something that, it's worth paying attention to, especially in a move where, I'm talking about 2 hours away, or talking about something that's like England.
A different, yeah.
Yeah, like
but,
a whole country.
but the thing is, and another thing, like I remember when you're kind of in the weeks leading up to you moving, we talked about, just for you anyways, this was your first time moving, whereas I've moved before a few years ago at this point. And so like, I remember us kind of telling you some of the things that I dealt with, thinking, because I moved to, when I moved to college, thinking about like, that was the first time I was away from home, and so I had to deal with a lot of these emotions, and it was a bit of a roller coaster. I just remember we like really connected on that, because you're just kind of like, okay, what do I expect? But what's weird though is I noticed the last few days, just kind of as we've been reconnecting, that like you're kind of giving me some of the same advice that I gave you.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, for me, having lived through it, it's like I feel like some of this advice that I would have given you last March, I'm kind of like needing right now, and I'm like not thinking of that. Like my brain doesn't go to that. Like, okay, just think about like what I did years ago, and like thinking about how that process worked. But like you've said some things, and then I'm just like, oh, wow, that's really insightful. And you're just like, you told me that. I'm like, what? Like,
Isn't that funny how that works though? Like,
yeah.
You've always been an insightful person even before I knew you. So it was like, it meant a lot to have your insight before I moved. And your insight is still something, like your insight from February is still something that I use today. And I thought it was pretty funny that when you started, not like funny, like not like humorous, but I thought it was pretty crazy how, when I was in the situation to give you advice, and like I definitely wanted to. I want to make sure that you're okay, because I really do, I care about you, and I want to make sure that you're good even when you're moving far away, and that you're always taking care of yourself. But, when I got put in the situation of like it was my turn to give you advice, I was like, wow, everything that I said, he told me. But like at the same time, it's like when we're giving advice, we never really think about, we never like take it into consideration ourselves, because we're not in that situation.
But I always kind of think of, like, for an analogy, like a therapist cannot really be their own therapist. And like just the concept of like, I remember watching a video of this therapist talking about her own therapist that she meets with regularly, and saying how if she doesn't meet with this person, how her mental health just goes downhill really fast. I'm just thinking, to me, like, from first glance, it kind of sounds like, like a mechanic having like a car that breaks down all the time. Like, it sounds ironic. It's like you're a therapist, you know all the secrets. Why do you have to go to somebody to basically tell you the same things? But then when you think about it, it's not that black and white. And, people that give advice all the time, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've thought of everything that's ever happened, so they need advice as well.
But I've also learned too is a lot of times what I think therapy really should is, they are there to de-escalate things, just like, I guess I was going to say emergency personnel, but they're always there to de-escalate things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're there to de-escalate you when you're at your worst and to give you advice.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it's easy to give somebody advice, but it's just hard to follow your own advice, because you can't, like you said, you can't be your own therapist,
Yeah.
And you can get yourself out of situations mentally, you can, check the facts, but it's really hard as human beings to validate ourselves. We always look for another person's perspective, because if another brain validates our brain, then we come up essentially with the conclusion that we're not crazy.
Yeah.
And that goes into like every single everyday life situations. Like if you think that somebody doesn't like you, you think that there's something wrong with you, because another person's brain is basically telling that person that they hate you. And that really like draws our self-image. So if you went into like, I don't know, an auditorium, and every single person in that auditorium said that they disliked you, you're just gonna like immediately, like, you're not gonna validate yourself, you're gonna invalidate yourself,
right?
Like, you know what, they're correct. But if you sat in that auditorium and everybody complimented you and said that they liked you,
Yeah.
They're gonna think you're the best person ever.
But or then another thing you could think is that somebody's lying, or like they're paid to say it, because it's like, for whatever reason, we tend to latch on to like whatever disadvantages us most. Like if a room full of people say that they hate you, you're gonna believe them. But like if you have that mindset in a room of people saying that they love you, you're like more inclined to like think, no, they don't really mean that. Whereas like you'll give somebody that says that they hate you way more credit than you would for the contrary.
Exactly.
But like another thing I think about is I always just kind of thought, like, growing up, just how you look up to adults, like, for their opinion if you're like run into an issue. Like I always remember, like, it always seemed like mom and dad always had the answers for everything.
Right.
And like it seemed like if there was something that you couldn't figure out yourself, like they would have it figured out. And it could just be anything. Like maybe you fell off your bike and skinned your knee and you're like, oh my god, like it's the end of the world, like my knee is like, I'm gonna be amputated, like
Right.
like I'm gonna die, like I'm gonna like just have to live with one leg. But then, like, you know, your mom comes out and you're just thinking of all the worst, like going to the hospital and everything that comes with that. And then your mom's just like, oh, let's put a Band-Aid on it. Like, and they just, like, they say it in such a way that just, like, calms you down.
Right.
And what I think, though, as I've gotten older, I always have the tendency to think that, like, people older than me, like, know more or have it together. But what I've learned, in just meeting so many people just through work or just in life, is they really don't.
I literally thought about this whole entire thing yesterday. It's really
Yeah.
funny because everything that you just said is everything that I thought about yesterday. How we literally rely on people, like people who are adults, you know, like older than us,
Yeah.
to validate us and to provide comfort and support for us. But then I'm at a point right now, because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, my parents to me right now, after moving out, granted, I was only moved out for 8 months now, but
Yeah.
regardless, after moving out, okay, so,
Actually, I know the person in this house.
well, their light is brighter than the sun.
Yeah.
Wait.
Brighter than my future.
God damn it. But no, like we always used to depend on adults for comfort. But then, like I said, you know, I've been moved out for 8 months. I came back down to Rochester and I was literally thinking yesterday, God, they're literally, you know, love my parents. But it's just like, God, they're like literally just people to me now. I mean, they're my parents and I'm always going to love them. They're going to
Yeah.
be my family no matter what. But I've just realized that, like, there's really there isn't an adult mentality.
Is it this way?
No, I mean, which is public record anyway, but who cares? Anyway, I'm like I said, I'm always gonna love my parents, but it's like, there really is there is adult mentality. I mean, adult mentality is maturity. Like, we all
Yeah.
need that adult mentality. We all need maturity. We need to make sure that we know the difference between right and wrong and how to act as people.
Yeah.
However, I don't think there's some mentality that, you know, validates one another, and therefore that's kind of where I see it as, you know, just another person.
Yeah.
It's literally, I mean, once you meet all these different types of people, and I can tell you, I've met a lot of winners and a lot of losers. And also,
I think you've met one of every type of person that could be.
I literally have. And, you know, at this point, if I met an alien, I don't think I'd be shocked. I think I'd just be like, okay, this is another weird...
Be like, you're not even the most unique.
Right, yeah. I'd like, you know what, this is one encounter that I've had with an alien that is just, I mean, this is more normal than anything that I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
But,
Actually, yeah, like, I had a thought, and, you know, kind of going on what we were talking about earlier about, like, trusting people or not trusting, or just thinking like they have something figured out that we don't. Actually, one of the moments that, like, I almost, like, freaked out a little bit is thinking about my grandparents and, like, some of the things that they've had to deal with, just with their health issues and having strokes. And I mean, then you got the whole conversation about, like, nursing homes and caregivers and things like that, and seeing them kind of, like, panic and, like, not know what to do, and then they kind of look to you for like kind of like support, and you're just like, well, you're the one that's given me support all these years. It's like, how do I return that? It's like you're the ones that are supposed to have all the answers figured out.
Yeah, exactly.
But real quickly, another thing I thought about was this manager I used to have. Like, I just think of like where we worked in that he was like very careful to like make sure that you didn't get overwhelmed. Like, he was very like, if there's a problem, go to me. Don't worry about anything. Just go to me. Like, I have your back. I'll take care of whatever it is. Just do your best. And then if you need any help, I'm here to support. And I remember just thinking like, man, that's like a lot of burden to carry. And it's like, for what cause? But then now I think about my situation where my current employment, like, if you will, like, kind of requires the same out of me. And I had a meeting just where I discussed different things and what the future will look like. And I have this team that I'm in charge of now. I remember saying something very similar to that. Just like, don't worry about, because you get a lot of like concerned people saying like, oh, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens?
Right.
And then as I was kind of explaining to them, I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I'm just like, whoa. I said the thing
Yeah.
that, like, you know, like years ago, I was just like, oh, like I could never see myself in that situation. Now it's like, now I am in that situation.
I know, isn't that crazy? Like, I always think back to when I lived at home, and it's really hard for me to even picture living here. Like, I obviously believe that I did live here, and I know that I lived here, but it's just like, I can't see that life anymore, because that's not who I am. But at the same time, I always think back, and I'm like, wow, when I lived here, I never thought that I'd leave the state. I never thought that I would, like, you just don't think about that stuff.
So what's it like being back in like the same spot that like just a year ago you lived here, and like to walk where we are right now would just kind of be part of your everyday? What's it like walking down it now, being like you don't actually live here?
I mean, I'm used to it now because this is my third or fourth time being back, but I can tell you that the first 3 times that I've came back down, that I visited after I moved, it was so weird. Things, because I adapted to my home in Eau Claire, and I've made that my home. It was weird because everything just, it felt different, and it was just so trippy because it's like, whoa, I used to live here.
Yeah.
As we're currently speaking, it is so weird. It's, I don't know, like, I know what to expect being down here. I'm kind of used to seeing it after I moved. I can kind of manage it now. So it's not like completely weird, but it's definitely, I can tell you, a little eerie because it's one of the things where you read the news and you're used to hearing about just the news events in Rochester and all the crazy things that happen here. So in that aspect, it's a little unnerving and a little, like, kind of sketchy that I'm out here in the dark. But at the same time, I mean, I think I feel pretty good about it. And the thing that I always wonder about is my brother, because he has messaged me, but I think I'll reach out to him. You know, I'm keeping myself busy in Wisconsin. Keeping myself busy. I'm doing a lot of research. I'm, trying to keep myself busy, and I'm really indulging into my hobbies, and I'm doing it just the right amount to where I can still have fun and still, like, work for something at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's really a part of, like, narrowing or, spacing things out. Eventually I'm definitely gonna look for somewhere to work and somewhere to...
So yeah, you're still like figuring things out and getting settled, even though you've been there for a while and you've become familiar with a lot of different things. There's still other things that you're exploring and trying to get situated, which I mean, I can relate to that because, well, I don't know, it's strange. I had like a bit of a different arc where, like, I moved to a different place, and of course we had that long process of getting adjusted and just getting to know the layout of the land and, like, just learning how to live on your own, and like some of these skills that you realize you never learned growing up. And you've, like, for example, laundry, you've seen it done so many times, but until you've done it yourself, you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do. But for me, it's been an interesting arc because I go from, like, being in that situation where I'm living on my own in a different town, in a different state, essentially, and then coming back to where I grew up and living in this in this town that I know so well, which, living in another place permanently for the time and coming back to where I grew up was a bit of a strange dynamic, because you're just it just becomes unfamiliar to you, or like it just feels foreign, like almost like you're walking through like a memory or something.
It really is. And it's just kind of like, it was just so weird to drive through. Every time that I've been down here, no matter, obviously this is my fourth time, I'm just kind of used to seeing it now, but I mean, it's still kind of nice to drive through, and, you're kind of like going down memory lane.
Yeah.
Except for, I always kind of have this defense mechanism in my brain where it's like, do you really want to have this memory?
Yeah.
Because I'll drive around, and I'm like, wow, I really do miss the city. I miss the architecture of some of the buildings here. I miss the, like the bigger city life in the smaller town kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But then I'm just like, is this really a memory worth memorizing? Because a lot of things have happened.
Yeah, this person's yard is just crazy. And so, anyways.
Yeah. But I think, it's, when I first moved, I always hated just driving further away. So, like, I always hated driving to, like, the city that's close, that's just north of where I live, because that's an hour away. That's one more hour away from Rochester. I just hated it. I'm like, every time that I move, I know I'm getting further and further away from my hometown.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I mean, I'm very relaxed.
Yeah. Oh, there's a deer. But, yeah, that's something I'm thinking about, because in 2 days I'll be getting on to a 10-hour flight, which is just something I've never done before. And so, oh, my watch is yelling at me. But it's actually, well, the nerve part is strange, because I know a few days ago, this whole moving process and, like, going to a different country, like, this didn't really, well, this has its roots back to about, like, 9 months ago, is kind of when I made that decision when I was applying for colleges to go to. And this was one of my options. At first, I'm like, oh, that's not really going to happen. But then I applied, and then I got accepted. And so I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And because on one hand, I am really comfortable where I am. I have people that I really enjoy. I've had some career opportunities I was able to find that I didn't think I would be able to just a few years ago, and some of the connections and projects I've been able to work on. But then came this opportunity to go somewhere else completely, and then I'd be starting over, and like, it's like, wow, what do I do? and part of the process, I mean, there's a lot of different things that went into it, and some of it have to do more with the more boring side of things, like finances and like just different things like that, and quality of education, what doors that can open, all that fun stuff. But then like another part of it too was I'm really comfortable where I am, and I've had a lot of experiences here, but also it's very specific to where I am. There's only so much I can witness being in one place, and talking to some people that have traveled the world and seen all these different things, they just have such a great like outlook on humanity, I guess, and just
yeah. I think that's a very important outlook too, because once you expand, whether you're going internationally, whether you're staying inside of the U.S. or whether you're going out and you're exploring things across the world, you always see there's always a different personality to every single town that you see. And when I first started dating my boyfriend, I like we would go to Illinois. We went to Illinois once, but we went to Illinois, and we would go everywhere. We went everywhere in Wisconsin, everywhere in, I think it's Northwestern is Eau Claire, Northwestern, something like that. But anyway, we'd go to all those cities, and every single city in Wisconsin, and every single city that I've been to in Illinois, everybody is just, they have their own personalities, and it's so different, and it gives you it's so refreshing to see that there's actually good people out there.
And I imagine it's one of those things that you can't really describe it unless like you see for yourself.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I mean, there's people I've met in Illinois that I don't particularly, like care for, or there's people that I think, just don't fit, me as a person.
Yeah.
But also I see that even that's still a part of their city. Like that's still part of the personality of the city.
Yeah.
And I still like to appreciate it whether I agree with it or not.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, like if I don't agree with the way somebody is, then you're not really taking in the full culture and you're not seeing the different sides of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of like with that, what I've been thinking about, I don't even know where to start with it. But one of the first kind of like moments I've had after I got this acceptance letter, I remember I went for a walk. In Rochester, we have this place called Pill Hill where all the doctors live. And, well, historically, that's where a lot of the medical professionals live. Mainly doctors, but essentially people with advanced degrees in the medical field tend to live there.
My old doctor lived there.
Oh, that would be awkward if you walked by your doctor's house.
I have, but like he's never been outside. But I mean,
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't listen to this.
But I remember walking in that area, and this is the day I got my acceptance letter, and I was just walking around, and I just thought about the fact that everybody in this neighborhood that I'm walking in has had a day like I had, where like they had a day where they opened up their acceptance letter to whatever grad program or medical school, or some people maybe just their bachelor degree, and then some people could have the same experience but thinking about a 2-year college they went to, or just any kind of like place that they've been accepted to, and because of that kind of just changed their life and set them for whatever career they went into and their interests and things like that. And so I thought about that a lot.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Even in this upper scale neighborhood that we're in right now, I think everybody here has had a good day. And everybody here, I mean, I don't know all their stories. I know one guy up here is a lawyer, but I mean, other than that, I know that the day he got accepted into law school, best day of his life, and everybody's had good days. I mean, whether you're rich or poor, but I mean, here it's probably, the only reference that I can really make is the fact that their best day was the day that they bought the houses. But I mean,
Yeah, right.
I'm sure
they're
that-
really nice.
I'm sure their career was a starting point for them, though. And I think that the house is kind of the cherry on the cake because they wouldn't have what they have if they weren't dedicated to what they do.
Yeah, and like with that kind of another moment, I was at the same time that this happened, I got my acceptance letter for this college, and at the same time I have this trip for work that I have a decision if I want to go on it or not. And part of it was just thinking of the cost, the time, how that would conflict with other things, and I was really on the fence, and it was getting late. I was getting really close to the cutoff when I needed to decide, am I going on this trip or not? But after getting that letter that I was accepted into this college in England, I'm like, I'm gonna take this trip. I'm gonna go to Arizona for this work conference. And the reason why I wanted to do that was just because, okay, I'm gonna have to get used to being on a plane, being in another area, another landscape completely different from where I am. And so I'm like, let's just see how this goes. Because that's the other thing, like, I didn't know for sure if I was gonna, like, actually go to England. Like, I didn't know I was gonna say yes to it. I mean, I had that day where I walked around this doctor neighborhood thinking all these people had the same experience. But, but I was still undecided because there's so many things that goes into it. And that's not something you decide on day one. But then, when I flew out to Phoenix for this conference, I remember sitting in my hotel room, which is a very temporary place. I was only there for 3 days. But for whatever reason, and I don't know what it was, but I kind of felt at home there. And there's something about just where I was just seemed it just seemed right. It seemed like that's where I needed to be right then. And so then I just kind of had that thought, well, maybe I need to go to England. Because I'm like, maybe this trip, and granted it was a 3.5 day trip, that compared to being somewhere for, a year or even longer potentially, that's a big thing. What is the significance of where we're walking to right now?
So, it's actually a really significant spot. I used to always go there during high school, and I used to always, not even just in high school, after high school too. I've spent a majority of my life just kind of walking up here. It's nice because nobody really knows about it. But the thing is, you get to see the city, and I don't know, there's so many nice, there's always some really something eye-opening and awing about it.
And do you find that's changed, being that you're kind of returning to the spot?
Honestly, I find it kind of an emotional moment, I'm not gonna lie. Because, I'm actually being honest, it kind of an emotional moment because, well, looking at the skyline, no matter what my on and off views of the city actually are, people in it, I think seeing the skyline was something that I always kind of depend on every single day. Because it was something that I used to take my stress out on. I'd go watch the city. My stress would just leave. It's just so peaceful. And it's, looking at it, it's literally the town that I left, buildings that I no longer in the see anymore, is everything that's part of the past.
Yeah.
Seeing it again is kind of a reconnecting moment for me. But at the same time, it's also kind of nice because it's something that you don't see when you're in Wisconsin because, there's not very many cities like this one in Wisconsin where you have not skyscrapers per se, but taller buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah, what I think you said about the skyline, it makes me think of, and this is something I think we both really connect on. So kind of context, we didn't really know each other growing up, even though we lived in the same area.
Yeah.
But one of the things is I do remember and I think this is actually how we even started talking about is we both took walks in our neighborhood, all the time.
Well, and also you would post on Snapchat. You'd go to my same spots too in this neighborhood, and I'd see it literally every day, and I'm like, who is he? I want to talk about this. I want to know his stories. I want to know what's.
Because actually, I think I remember our first ever conversation, and I posted is a picture of a sunset kind of in a field just by where we passed. And then you responded to it. Who I knew who you were because we had mutual friends, but we've never officially met or talked or anything before. But then you messaged me. I'm just who is this? We had each other on social media, and I'm so I know of him, but we never spoken. But then he commented on this spot, and then we just really connected on that because then
we really did. And when we went on our first walk too, it was we started to really connect on I thought it was cool how when we first started talking, because I said, you'd post pictures of the same spot every day, the same field, you'd go there a lot, and I'm just oh, I remember that bridge, I remember that
but what you just said about the mental health piece, that just helped me realize we really had a lot of shared experiences.
We have, yeah.
And I think that's something right now, being that you just moved somewhere and then I'm about to move somewhere, that in a way, within the same year and the same months, we're both in a similar stage in our life.
We are, yeah. And it's kind of cool how that works. We're in the similar stage and we're literally following each other's advice on it. It's kind of crazy how we're literally in the same situation, except for, maybe a little different because you're going across, the country.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that, you're going to miss here as much as I miss it here already. So.
Yeah, because I know, for the first couple months, it was, really difficult adjusting, and we had a lot of, conversations about that and talking about different things, and I was giving you a lot of advice and just got a lot of insight because as I'm telling you these things, I'm going to be in the same boat as him in a few months.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I imagine when I move out there, you're probably going to hear from me a lot.
Definitely.
Especially because I don't really know what to expect. It's really hard to even visualize myself being somewhere else. I woke up this morning and it's this is where I've woken up every morning for a very long time. Now it's weird to think that 48 hours from now, actually now more 36 hours, 30 hours even, but I'll be somewhere else.
Can you make it 36 days,
Yeah, 36 days.
please?
You know, I don't need to be tempted because, like, part of me is thinking, if I miss this flight, whoopsie daisy, or like, if I didn't fill out a form correctly, oops, my bad.
Right.
But at the same time, though, I know once I do get out there, I mean, there's going to be a lot to see, a lot to experience, probably a lot of emotions that I haven't even necessarily felt, like, for a while or even ever on certain things.
How does it feel now? Let me just ask you like this. How did
Yeah.
it feel 36 days ago? Now that I say 36, like how did it feel a month ago
Yeah.
versus now where this is becoming a reality?
Well, it's weird because, in a way, like, this is a really weird analogy, but I feel like I'm dying. And like, yeah, or like I'm about to like go somewhere where like I'm really just stuck in the present. I can't think much about the future because I don't know what it'll look like. I know I have a lot of ideas about different things and different goals and that, but I don't like know what it's like to experience it. And so in a way, and when I live here, where I am now, and I have something coming up, and whether it's like a really big opportunity or not, for me it just seems like feasible. Like I can visualize, I can imagine doing it, and I'll dream about it too, especially before it happens. Like this is how it's gonna go, and sometimes it goes exactly like that. But like thinking about it in England, I don't dream about it, and when I do, which is very rarely, when I'm actually there in my dream, it's places I've seen before. You know,
Yeah.
it's not.
Because you haven't seen it yet enough to picture it in your mind. But
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying by it feels like you're dying, because I felt that. I
Yeah.
really did. Because it's like you don't know what to expect when you're going into unknown situations.
yeah,
And for me, I was in the same boat where it was like, there's so much that could happen.
yeah,
We could talk about my goals, we could talk about my dreams, we could talk about the uncertainties of life. But
yeah,
in the end of the day, I just wanted to be present, because if I'm in the present, I'm more likely to be stable and structured when I go. And
Yeah.
same thing I think with you. And I think, I don't think you're thinking about this negatively at all. I don't
Yeah.
think the fact that you feel like, it's not good to feel like you're dying,
Well,
because
but-
you're not. But you're basically rebirthing yourself. Like you're basically
Yeah, that-
like transforming as a person.
yeah. Like, and that's exactly how I'd put it too. I'm actually, well, that's not exactly how I would have put it because I never thought about it in that way before. But I definitely, yeah, I think along those lines. And for me, as I just walked into a spider web and inhaled a really nasty spider, that is the question. I think onwards, but
Is our word safe?
that is a good question. Well, let's see. We've only walked to this spot in the winter, I realize.
Yeah, and then in the summer it's so.
Overgrown.
Oh no, I don't know, because
Yeah. Oh, this might be the end of the road. There it is. This is what we've come to see. Isn't that how life is?
this is such an emotional moment for me. Look at all the grass here.
I know when I pictured it, I wonder if this is like in a weird way, like really symbolic, because like just think about it. We came up here with an expectation of what we're going to see, and we have a memory of what it looks like, and neither of us have been up here for about like 9 months.
Right.
And now we're up here and we have this like whole idea in our heads of like how spectacular it's going to be. Then we get up here and it's really different.
Tell me how it changed this much with
Yeah.
9 months.
It's not even recognizable.
No.
It's not even accessible. We can't even go to like the spot that we wanted to.
I swear though, didn't this all used to be rock at one point? I feel like they had to have brung trucks in here or something to make it like this.
It looks bigger too.
Yeah.
But like, oh my god, that's like gonna haunt me on this like whole plane ride. Is the fact that I have this sort of idea in my head of what my living situation's gonna be like, but I don't really know. And everything's just kind of exists in my mind.
Oh, I am so high.
I know, I had a whole point to that story, but like seeing that, like, it just completely changed everything.
I think your audience will really resonate with something. Can I tell them?
Yeah.
Okay, so So, hi phone. So, I'm gonna tell the phone what I was just saying. So basically, what I was telling the recorder a minute ago was the fact that it's really annoying when you're driving 2 hours and you have to, when you're driving from like literally 2 hours and the whole entire bridge is closed, literally 45 minutes before you even get into town, and there's like this nuclear bomb in your ass, and you literally just like have to make a sacrifice. You either have, like sometimes you have to like make a very, very like split second decision. You're like, you know what? Do I go in the river and shock all of them, or do I hold it in? Because like sometimes, and I think that's really symbolic because
That's a great visual.
right. And sometimes I think that's really symbolic. And it's symbolic because when you're driving down a road and you gotta take the worst shit and somebody like cuts you off and stops you and closes down the whole entire road, you gotta hang on. When somebody blocks off your road, you just gotta hang on. Just like how when you're driving and they cut off the road and you have to take a shit, just hang on. You know?
My earlier point is that like I have this I don't exactly know what to expect, and I have this idea in my head what it could look like, but it's very limited. Like I said, when I dream about it, I cannot picture myself, so I'll see things I've already experienced before, or what I expect to, and it's gonna be just strange seeing that like memory change into something, because memory and just your brain is so malleable.
Yeah.
And so like if you have an idea of something and you remember it, it's gonna change though. Like
It will. Last saw it, it was a dirt pile, and that's how my brain imagined it. And then we came up here and I found out that it was just grass,
yeah.
and that the whole entire city of Rochester is just a bunch of idiots because, like, in retrospect, every time that I come here, they have to take something away from me because I've had so many nice spots that I used to go
Yeah.
to. And then I finally came back, you know, in the summer in July. I came back and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna go over by the area of like that field where where you would take pictures of and like
Yeah.
start talking, you know?
Yeah.
I'd go over there. There's like a little quarry over there, and I'd always used to walk through that quarry. I don't know if I was supposed to, but there was no signs that said I couldn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I'd always go in there, and then in July when I came down, I was like, you know what? This is awesome. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna like go to that quarry, and they took that away. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm not going to the quarry. So then I'd go like to the field over by my house and chill
Yeah.
there for a bit. They took that away, and then I found out that construction workers decided they were gonna like make the whole entire like city thing, like
Yeah.
City View grass. But
Yeah. But like no, like thinking about like how your memory changes like like that.
Yeah.
I can't even take myself seriously, but it's just a thing. Your brain over time changes, and like some of the things you experience, and as you learn things, it'll like kind of influence how you look at things in the past. And like
he said,
what?
so I really like your recorder, but I wanted to say it looks like it's about ready to talk to my manager.
I know, it does. But oh no, what you just said literally like 2 minutes ago, before I like forgot what I was talking about. But I don't remember what it was. Wait, what was that thing you were talking about? It was like
Sitting in the road and you just gotta have to hang on.
like oh no, I know what it was.
Image.
No, it was no before that. You had a quote where you said it seems like every time you come back here something is taken away that you like. And I was just thinking, because we had this whole moment where when we stood there and we're just like, man, like this is not what we're expecting to see. We were expecting to see like the city skyline and whatever, and now we come there and there's a bunch of weeds. And so like, and I was thinking, oh, what? That's like symbolic, because that's like thinking of, you know, how I view moving to England in my head, but then like when I actually get there, it's going to be completely different. And I'm like, going to be like, oh, what the heck? It's just like that moment when we were at that rock. And so I'm like, you know, have that like really spiritual side of things. And then like not even 2 minutes later, you just say, like, I feel like every time I come back, something's taken away. and I'm just thinking, oh no.
Holy worse, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay, but like it's just really funny because it's just such a change in pace.
I do agree with you in the fact that there's something kind of like spiritual about it. Because, I mean, before, obviously, like when I was in middle school and high school, like I didn't smoke weed, so like I had to like cope other ways, and I was like really against that stuff during
Yeah.
my younger years. So anyway, but I had like the worst, like so 7th grade through 9th grade was like the worst for me. I had a lot of bad points, obviously, in my life. Haven't we all? But like at the same time, 8th through 9th grade was pretty bad, or 8th through 10th grade, around there was pretty bad. And you know, like when I'd come home from school, like I think I didn't, I don't know if I told the recorder this, but I told you, but I said that I used to go up to the city a lot and look at the skyline, and it would just like absolutely like calm me down. I mean, there'd be times where you just feel the weightness and the gravity of your brain. And
Yeah.
it's just so compressed with all this drama and all this like sadness and depression. And then I'd go up to this hill and I'd look at the city, and it was literally like getting high. Like I literally felt like my brain muscles.
Deep breath and got real high.
I did off of the Mayo Clinic. Give it.
But okay, I have a question for you that's like very different from what we're just talking about. But where are you right now?
Where am I?
Yeah.
As far as like
Like-
am I physically?
Whatever you take that question. Like, where are you mentally or physically, spiritually?
Well, mentally is confusing. And so where am I right now? Okay, well, physically I'm in Rochester, Minnesota. I'm on a hill right now, going upwards, and this hill is responsible for every asthma attack that I've ever had. But
But you don't live here.
I don't live here, no. I live somewhere else with a man. And I'm gay with that man.
Beautifully put.